Hello, I'm Clint Walker, and this is Real Estate Appraiser Secrets. And today we're going to talk about one of the scariest terms in real estate, and that is over-improvement. Now, many of you might be wondering, what is an over-improvement? An over-improvement is a concept that I think probably makes many appraisers lose sleep at night. Because it is the idea that someone could spend money on a house to the point that what they've spent amounts to zero return. It's the idea that you can make a house too nice, too big, too luxurious, too valuable for anybody to be able to afford what you have done to it in that area. Okay, that is the concept of over-improvement. To give you some examples, I once was appraising a house, and it was a Beazer construction. If you're not familiar with Beazer, they build a fine house. Mostly they're building like entry-level to mid-level homes, although it's hard to call them entry-level anymore when I'm pretty sure that in some parts of Middle Tennessee you can get a Beazer house for over $1 million. But I was appraising a Beazer house in an area where this was an entry-level home, where, I think it was purchased for around $300,000. And when I went to appraise it, I think it was for a refinance, the owner had, after they purchased it, installed waterfall granite or quartz or marble in the kitchen, like this waterfall island, and then they replaced their basic tile backsplash with a full quartz slab backsplash, pulled up all of the builder grade floor coverings and put in really nice ceramic tile. They had replaced the original front door, which was probably a fiberglass front door, with one of those wrought iron front doors like you see on really amazing houses, castle style houses. I think they're even called castle doors. And I just spent tens of thousands of dollars on this $300,000 house after the fact, after they purchased it. So naturally, they want to know how much is all of this. I've spent $100,000 on upgrades, really nice upgrades to this property after the fact. How much is that worth? And many people are under the impression that when they put money into the house, they should at least get that much back and sometimes make a profit on it. And sometimes you can, but you have to be very cost conscious of that, just because of the concept of over improvement. So this person that spent $100,000 on a $300,000 house, doing things that no one else in this market would or maybe even could do. Maybe this owner owned a granite company. I don't know. I didn't get to talk to them that in depth about it. But they did things that no one else would or could do. They spent an amount of money on this property that their target buyer can't afford to pay them out for. So when you get into improvements like that, you quickly start getting zero return on money spent because no one can afford to pay you back for it. That's the concept of over-improvement. And this can happen in almost any price point, maybe with the exception of those price points where money is no object. But even in more expensive price points, when people start building a pool, and I talked to an owner about this the other day, you start getting into these pools in Middle Tennessee that can cost $500,000 to $1 million, and putting that level pool, even on the wrong level of luxury property, starts to become an over improvement where you get nothing back because your buyer can't do that. Maybe we're talking about $1.5 million house. That is an expensive house by almost every metric. Although in some parts of Middle Tennessee, that starts to approach the median purchase price for a house. And maybe there's some correlation to where a property is in relation to the median versus how much, how easy it is to start doing over improvements to it. But you may have this $1.5 million home, which is a very nice, very expensive home, but if you put in a $500,000 pool, you have to start looking and seeing, are other people doing this? Is there evidence that market participants can afford to pay the seller, the owner, back for what they've invested in this property? And maybe even also, would other market participants do this themselves? I was having this conversation with a person recently where I think this house was they paid around $1.6 million for it, and the owner had nice taste, and so they put in a pool that was a gunite pool, waterfalls, just a tremendous amount of patio. And if you haven't ever put in a pool, the patio area is a significant expense to that when you start expanding it beyond what the pool company just throws in. Just this amazing backyard, and they spent around $300,000, I think they told me, doing all this, which for a gunite pool in Middle Tennessee is not crazy. But I was telling this person that I'm starting to see houses in the $1 million to $3 million range in certain areas, especially spec homes, where people are putting in fiberglass pools, which is significantly less expensive than a gunite pool. Maybe, I don't know, 40, maybe 50, 60% less than a gunite pool. Maybe even more than that, because gunite, you can get into such extreme customization that the prices can go through the roof. But we're talking like rectangular pools here. And he was shocked to hear that. But I was explaining to him, when you consider what some of these companies are charging for gunite, it just doesn't make sense to do it if your house isn't, $4 or $5 million. Just because of the extreme cost. You wouldn't spend $1 million on a site improvement on a $2 million house. It just doesn't make sense to spend. That ratio doesn't make sense. So he was kind of surprised to hear that, but the answer to these questions always lies in the comps. When you pull your comps for a specific property, and I'm speaking from the perspective of probably a homeowner here who's wanting to make these improvements. But for an agent, you're gonna get this phone call asking you about this, and I'm telling you, the answer is in the comps. If comparable properties like the one you're being asked about are putting in gunite pools, then gunite pools are probably the answer. Gunite pools may not necessarily be the only answer. Maybe a fiberglass pool will fly, and you can help your seller save a little money on that install and make a little money on the back end, because market participants, which is buyers, aren't always savvy enough to walk back there and look at that pool and turn up their nose at what's not a gunite pool. A gunite pool and a fiberglass pool glitter about the same in a lot of ways, and if you make that site improvement look nice, there's really nothing to say that you can't get the same value from that fiberglass as somebody else is getting from a gunite on the back end. So there's your tip, I guess. But I've lost my train of thought on that. But anyway, look at your comps and see what everybody else is doing. The comps are the blueprint to the way. Back in 2022, when I was actively flipping houses and working with investors flipping houses, the answer to the question, Clint, what should we do, was always, let me see what the comps look like. We're going to do that because someone else has done it. I can guarantee that now, because somebody else has done that and the market has paid for it, now I can essentially guarantee that this is acceptable and desirable in that market. And, not an over improvement. When you're flipping houses, answering the question of where does an over improvement begin? Where do we stop getting a return on our investment is a crucial question. You have to know how to answer that if you're working with investors. And then, beyond that, how little can we do to make the same return as someone else is also a reasonable question to address. So that in a nutshell is an over improvement. to reiterate, it is improving a property beyond what your buyers for that house can afford to purchase. You start to spend money and get nothing in return. So help your clients beware of that possibility, and they'll love you for that, because nobody likes to hear that they've spent $30,000 and they're getting zero back, and it happens all the time on certain things. If we can ever be of service to you, you can find me on appraiserpool.com. Feel free to hit me up if you need an appraisal on something, or a consultation, or professional measurement. And thank you so much for watching, as always, and have a great week.